Okay, so I'm going to record a short tutorial video on how to stream and record from OBS with different settings, different resolutions, different quality settings. So we go over here and we open our settings screen, and if we look here on the video settings, we can see this base canvas resolution, which is the initial capture resolution. So that might be the base resolution of your camera. If you're capturing a screen, it might be the resolution of the screen. The limiting factor here is going to be your source material. If you're using something like VDMX, it's going to be how much processing power you've got to render to that initial screen that you're capturing. This output scaling, we can then downscale that resolution to, and this is the resolution we're going to use when it's recorded to disk. And as we can see, right, so now let's go into this output setting here, and the first thing we need to do, if we're going to set a different settings between the recording and the streaming, is change this simple to advanced. And then we've got separate streaming and recording audio sections. We're on the streaming section, and we can see here we've got an option to rescale the output, and we might want to scale that down to something suitable for streaming, something like 567, or if you've got a little bit more bandwidth available to you, maybe 720p here. So, and looking at the settings here, this is a constant bit rate, which for streaming is desirable, and the reason for that is that the person's probably got a fixed bandwidth that they can play with, and so you don't really have the opportunity, or you don't get as much advantage to having the bit rate drop and increase as the amount of artifacts on the screen increases and decreases. So this looks a pretty good setting for our streaming. Now if we go to recording, we can see that now this recording is going to be at the original video settings that we set here. So we're going to be recording at 1440p at the moment, although we could set that down to 1080p if we wanted to. Let's leave it at 1440p for now. We go to our output section here, we're recording. Again, we've got custom settings if you really want to tweak the video compression settings of FFmpeg, but we don't want to really do that at the moment. So we've got this encoder. This is the correct encoder that we would most often use for streaming. There are other codecs that are less well supported on this platform, so I won't be using that. You also have the opportunity here to rescale the output to your desired recording. Let's go ahead and just do that to 1080p or set it to 1440p as we have here. And then here you've got our rate control. Now because we're recording this to disk and we haven't got this limitation of the bandwidth of the connection, we can set this to variable bit rate, and that is going to drop the bit rate to save disk space when there is not so much going on the screen. And we can get away with it without losing quality. But for this purpose, when we're recording to disk, got loads of disk space, we can up this to something pretty big. These are other settings are to do with the compression rate factor. I think lower is better, although I'd have to look that up. It's been a while since I tweaked those settings. So here we are. This is pretty much where we need to be. So now you could start recording. Right. Now if I was to have a look in my home drive, and we see that we've got an MKV file that I can open up. This is recorded at 1440p.